Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Roth-Novak. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PartySlate. I am so excited to have our special guest today, Colin Cowie. But before we do our intros, he really doesn't need an introduction. I mean, you're so well known in the industry. I am just honored to have you back on our webinar. I would love to hear where everyone is zooming in from. And so if you can go to the chat and change it to everyone. Love to hear where people are calling in from. I know we had over 200 register, and we have a bunch of people that are going to listen to the recording, but we're so glad to have people for this very special topic. So before we get started, Pamela, our editor, is going to be taking questions throughout. So if you have any questions, you can put it right in the chat or in the Q&A for the panels, because I know a lot of people, Colin, were excited to hear what you've been up to and also about your book, The Gold Standard, giving your customers what they didn't know they wanted, which I love that title, because anticipating customer needs, not just what they're asking for, but what they anticipate is so, so important. So before we get started, celebrity planner, consultant to the biggest hotels in the world, Colin Cowie, tell us a little bit about how you came to be, your background, and then we're going to jump into some questions about the book.
Julie, so nice to be with you one more time.
Yes.
Thank you. So where do you want me to start? It's a big story.
Well, let's just start. I know you talk about this in the book, and you've talked about it before, about where you kind of got your first taste of entertaining. And I know it goes back from the earliest days. And then fast forward, not only do you do events, but I'd love you to tell a little bit about your consulting business as well.
Perfect. So I grew up in Central Africa in Zambia, where there was one hotel you wouldn't put your foot in, one country club that we belonged to. So I can never think of a time when we never had guests in our home who were either staying with us or were there for a lunch or for a dinner. And there was always a big social movement at home. So for me, entertaining at home has been something I grew up with. It's one of the favorite things to do. I still to this day have 2 or 3 dinner parties every single week, preferably at my house versus going to a restaurant. And then from Central Africa, Zambia, I made my way to South Africa. And of course, I was drafted into the military. And here's a very interesting story. I went to the major one day and I said, I'd love to do something for the troops' morale. Maybe I could set up a bar. So I said, maybe I can take the helicopter and I can go to Grootfontein, which is the closest big town in Namibia, and I can get a tent and a big music boom box and a couple of blenders. And at the same time, while I was there, I saw one of those big glass beverage servers, that you could maybe make 30, 40 cocktails in at a time. So that's going to be the cocktail of the day. Fast forward, I sold 150,000 of those in Home Shopping Network when I was doing my Home Shopping Network. So you never know where your inspiration comes from.
Yeah. I would love to have seen, do you have pictures of that bar you set up by chance?
No, but I know exactly what I did. I remember. It was a tent, and the inside of the tent, I built a wooden bar. We were behind the bar, and the guests were in front. And I wallpapered it with jute, and I drew scenes with charcoal. And I put a little fountain outside the front because we were in Namibia in the desert. I called it the Sunset Bar. Cranked the music, and I had the cocktails going, a couple of appetizers, and I was in business.
This is where it all started, everyone. This is where it all
started. Absolutely. Yeah. And then I made money out of it on Home Shopping Network, where I sold every single thing from pots, pans, dishes, Christmas, you name it, and 150,000 beverage servers.
I love it.
And then, along the way, got to write a lot of books, 10 books. In fact, The Gold Standard is book number 11, my first business book. We'll talk about that in a bit. And have really had the most extraordinarily best business. I mean, I arrived here in 1985 on the 16th of September with $400, one well-cut suit, an omnipresent suntan, and huge dreams. I got to say, I can sit back and say, I've lived so many of those dreams, and got to get them to become a real big reality for me. And I got
what was your first big kind of celebrity event that kind of put you on the map?
Hugh Hefner's wedding. So when the world's most famous bachelor got married in 1999, I was, first of all, brought on board as a food consultant. And I looked at what they were doing. I said, no, this is what I would do. And each time I retold the story, someone more important was listening to the story. And an hour and a half later, I was standing in front of Hugh Hefner with his silk pajamas on. I said, "This is how your wedding should be." And I had no clue how famous the world's most famous bachelor really was.
Yes.
In those days, 90% of the people don't remember the yellow pages, but remember the yellow pages.
Yeah.
I had 2 books of press that thick from the yellow pages. And it really kind of got me labeled as Mr. Wedding.
Yes.
And really got me into the wedding business. And then came the books and the TV shows and Oprah and the CBS Early Show and the NBC Today Show. I think I did 8 years in each one of those. And I had on We Network, I had my own show for 5 seasons. And Home Shopping Network, I did for 7 years.
Wow.
And then fast forward to the pandemic,
Yes.
It was fabulous, very extravagant, amazing wedding, my first and only wedding in February, the 22nd of February, 2020, and came back from amazing honeymoon and heard about this virus, and I'd seen a few mosques in the Middle East, because I stopped it and engaged in Dubai on my way back. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, we were in shutdown, and as we know, our businesses literally went onto a grinding halt.
Yes.
The only thing coming in were the bills from the wedding. And there was no income coming in from the parties. So I had to get smart. And so I figured, I need to do 2 things. I need to create another revenue resource and income stream. And at the same time, I need to stay front and center of all of my clients.
Yes.
Which was important to me. So I really got miserable for 24 hours, which is what one does. You deal with the emotions, you get angry when you need to. Mm-hmm. And Monday morning, I put on a jacket, I got dressed, I called my entire team together on a Zoom. I said, right, now we need to get smart. Let's get very clever, let's figure what assets do we have, what are the skill sets we have, and who could best use those. And I've done a lot of work in the consulting space, in hospitality. I was also the creative director for NetJets. Mm-hmm. I was asked by Warren Buffett to create the most luxurious brand in the world for them. That was an extraordinary project for me, and I creatively directed hotel in Hong Kong and a lot of food and beverage scenarios and hospitality venues. But I'd never ever put it under an umbrella. I'd never ever given it a label and a name, said, this is what we do. These are the case studies. And I did that, and I called 20 developers. Every single person took my call. I guess I had a lot of time on their hands. And I zeroed in on 3 developers who were all in South Florida, who were in the process of either building a resort from the ground up or refurbishing a resort with a $200 million budget.
Yes.
And when it was almost really not safe to fly, I flew here to Miami, and I came and I met with the 3 developers, and I closed a deal with 2 of them on the spot.
That's amazing.
They basically said to me, you're 5 different consulting companies under one umbrella, you're hired.
Yes.
It was exciting. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe I need an office and a home here. 45 days later, I had this fabulous new office and this fabulous new home. And here we are 18 months later. And today I just signed a lease in a new office space because I need more space.
That's amazing.
Our events business is on fire. We are producing extraordinary events left, right, and center. A lot of new clients, got rid of a few clients, which is kind of good. So kept the slate nice and clean. And our consulting company, we now have like 6 major clients that we're working with.
How do you balance your time between events and consulting? A lot of people that, your name is on, on your company and you're kind of the star of the show. How do you balance your time between the 2?
My time is spent very equally between the 2. I've run multiple businesses my entire career and had the ability to switch hats very easily.
Yeah.
And the way we communicate today, we just zoom in different members of the team depending on what the projects that we're working on. Mm-hmm. And so I have a lot of local resources here that I'm working with in South Florida. But New York, I was in New York almost every single weekend since September because we had a party and event every single weekend.
Yeah.
So it's been incredibly busy to see both sides come back together again. The frustration, which we should talk about and address, is the slow supply chain.
Yes.
When everything came to a grinding halt, it's the same thing when they ground an aeroplane. They don't just switch on the batteries and it takes off that day. It takes about 3 weeks or a month to get an aeroplane back up to speed where it can fly safely in the sky. I read something the other day where one of the senators was saying that it's going to take us long to get our supply chain back as long as we've had COVID.
Oh, gosh.
I think when you see the amount of containers that are stacked up in
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale and in outside of Los Angeles, you realize how much has just slowed it down completely because
Absolutely.
of the budget.
And like
It never-
staffing back up and getting the truck drivers and everything else it was at a halt before. Yeah.
It was, and like, even the events that we're doing, the rental companies, to give them a rental order a month in advance, and you can't make any changes, and they don't have a driver to send something if you needed something additional. That's been very challenging. I mean, it's so nice to be busy, so nice to have all the business back, but we're working harder than ever.
Yeah,
And
we had a webinar with Mindy Weiss last month, and she said they had to send their own truck to get things at the rental company because they couldn't truck it. They could not get it.
We did something the other day. We just stick someone in a zip car and send them to New Jersey to Party Rinse to go and pick up some part of our order.
Yeah.
We were with another company who delivered the chairs, and the chairs weren't assembled.
Yeah.
That's someone go out and buy 2 electric drills, and we're assembling 250 chairs before ceremony. We didn't account for that.
It's crazy.
So that has been challenging. The same thing with our Thrive, our hospitality company. We're doing in the midst of refurbishing a complete Boca Raton Beach Club, and I'm busy doing a 54,000 square foot spa. And even though it says it's in stock, they tell you 12 to 16 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very challenging on all businesses. But you know what? We're very grateful.
I'm grateful to be busy. I remember my first webinar, one thing PartySlate committed to during the pandemic is when we regrouped, just as you did with your team, is we have all this digital marketing knowledge and we have such great resources. How can we help this industry and stay relevant? So as you know, you were part of this program. We did every single week, no matter what was going on, we had a free digital marketing or webinar to help the industry really stay busy and stay focused on improving the business. So we appreciate your support, Colin, and thank you for coming to our first event back in Miami. Was a blowout.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and you did a really good job. You drew a great crowd of people. You had wonderful creative partners that were showcased, and I got to see so many people I haven't seen in a long time.
It was so fun. And so many people came in from New York and other places. It was great. And we have a lot of events coming up. So we'll tell you about that at the end. But let's talk a little bit about your book, The Gold Standard. I'm assuming during the pandemic, you've probably been thinking about this content for a while, gave you a little more opportunity and time, even though you're busy with your consulting, to actually, work on it. But tell us about what was the inspiration and the importance of this topic, which is all about creating these magical and kind of beyond expectations experiences.
I call it the gold standard because there's nothing better than gold. And the tagline says it all, giving your customers what they didn't know they wanted. Right? Yeah. So it's really about how do we create proactive customer service where we can use data and information that we can find readily available on social media channels, on the internet, so that we can craft a guest experience or a customer service experience where we get to anticipate the unanticipated needs of the guest.
Yes.
Okay. And in order to do that, you need a very rich culture in the company. Culture, I think, I call it the fuel of a company. Most people think 100% is enough. I think if you want to exceed and excel today, it's 120%. Between 100 and 120 is what I call passion. Passion is the best fuel out there. It gets anything to be done the right way. And in order to have a strong culture, you really need to make sure that your company is aligned, right? Yes. What is the vision? The vision never usually changes, right? But the mission can change depending on circumstances. The mission is how are we going to get there? Right? And then there's always the guiding principles that are really important that support that statement. So even though I started the book pre-COVID, I thought to myself, this could never be more timely because when you think about it, we have been working remotely, working hybrid situations. Our message might have changed, our product might have changed a little bit. So even more important now to get us, and we're working remotely, of course, and even more important now to get us back on the same path, headed in the exact same journey with the right plan ahead of us, all completely aligned.
Yes.
That made complete sense. And at the essence of this, what is it all about? It's all about how I make you feel. Because I think that's what the whole idea of customer service is. And the goal of customer service, because I'm sure you agree with me, we live in a very saturated world where we don't need another product, we don't need another service, we don't need another app, we don't need another piece of technology. It's saturated. The big key is how do I and my brand stand out in the crowd?
Yes.
So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you do, that you emotionally connect with your customer. An emotionally connected customer is loyal to you.
Mm-hmm.
They spend more freely. They're not price sensitive. They love to receive information from you. And most importantly, they're your best grassroots marketers. They talk about you at tea and dinner parties.
Yes.
So the goal really is to get an emotionally connected person. And I do that with what I call the customer seduction, because I use the senses of what you smell, touch, taste, see, and hear to create and to craft that guest experience that I know is going to resonate with you. And while we're working so hard to make sure that we have this emotional connection with our customers, we also want to make sure that all of our staff, our employees, and our team members are emotionally connected to us and to the brand.
Yes.
Because that also buys into the whole idea of what a rich culture really represents in the company. So the interesting thing is, when you craft a guest experience, you think about it, there are two types of service in the world, right? There's reactive service. When something goes wrong, I can put up my hand, and if I do it correctly and I recover correctly, I will have the ability to buy some loyalty with you, right? 95% of the world provides that type of reactive service, right? But proactive service is only 5% of the service providers do, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy that goes into be able to delivering proactive customer service where you can anticipate the unanticipated needs of the guest. So my snapshot of that, now although this obviously is very, very clearly lined out in the book, I think the first thing we want to do with any guest experience is personalization. I need to connect with you, right? I need to repeat your name several times in a conversation. I need to write a note and have it in your room when you check in, or have a gift card for you when you check into your hotel for one of our events or something. I need to make it personalized. You need to see your name, and you need to feel that you are the center of the universe.
Yes.
Right? I'm 100% focused on you. And then the second part of it is, I need to blow you away, right, with exceptional attention to detail. Whatever I'm doing, make it better, right? Yes. Somebody asks for a water, don't hand them a bottle of water. Bring it on a tray with a cocktail napkin, a glass. You're going to take it to another level, put a slice of orange, a slice of lemon, or a slice of lime, or choice of anyone you want, right? Yes. All of a sudden, water now became an experience. I made you feel something. Right?
Yes.
So that attention to detail is very important. And because we're in the business of style, and because we're delivering guest experience, I always like to add a filter of elegance to everything that I do. So when you do that, that filter of elegance naturally elevates everything. It naturally makes everything better and more elegant. You can talk, and you can talk elegant. You can walk, and you can walk elegant. The same thing with eating. Right? So we wrap that with a filter of elegance. And then we need to realize the back end of this is that teamwork and communication are the brothers and sisters of success. So what are the protocols that we use to be able to do this, to make sure that everybody adheres to them? We share their information. We set your internal customer, that's the person who sits next to you, your co-worker, set them up for success. Make sure that if they're carrying the baton of this customer service piece, that they have everything they need, that you hand it over smoothly to them, that we communicate and we work together well as a team. That's of vital importance, because that's where the magic happens. And then the legacy of all of this is that customer service means nothing if you don't have consistency.
Yes.
It has to be the same or better or higher every single time, right? The consistency is really, really important, right? Because you go to a hotel and you have a great stay and you want to tell all your friends about it. You go back a month later, it's not so good. You think, well, it's general manager change. Is there a new chef? What went on over here? So you lose credibility very quickly. So consistency is the goal in all of this. And you can only get consistency if you have really good standards.
That's what I was going to ask you, Colin, is so let's say you set a standard for your first meeting. It doesn't mean that every first meeting is going to be the same. It's going to be personalized and customized, but there's processes and thoughts and how you do things at your company. How do you take those standards and make sure when everyone's having a first meeting, because you're not going to be in every meeting, that it has that level of excellence?
A good standard given to anybody who understands the company's vision, mission, and guiding principles should be able to interpret that standard
Yes.
and turn it into an experience.
Yes.
So, for instance, in the New York office, I had what I did, the big important tool that I focus on in the book is what I call the 3 5s, right? So it's basically 5 things that we do in a sequence to ensure a seamless experience. So the 5 things are the pre-production. Tick, tick,
Okay.
tick, tick, tick. What are the things that are going to set us up for success before it even starts?
Yes.
To make sure that we've got everything done. What are the 5 things we do while it is live, right?
Yes.
The things we need to make sure that we're doing, because that's how we want to keep it going. And what are the most important ones are the last 5. That's when we get to reset, reprogram, regroup, and we take all that information that we learned when it was live so that we can better craft the experience next time, because we know so much more about the situation or that particular individual or what it is that we're actually doing. So, you know, we usually, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, that like, what is it like when you're having a meeting in the office? So part of our 3 5s pre-production would be Google the client so that we can see and visually identify what they look like. Intern will be downstairs on the street. When the car door opens, we say, "Good afternoon, Mrs. Smith. Welcome to Colin Cowie Lifestyle." Really? I mean, that's personalization.
Yes.
That's attention to it. I've already grabbed her attention. Right? Gets into the elevator, comes into the conference room, is seated in the conference room, looking through the glass wall to the fabulous living room area that we think, wow, these are very elegant, stylish people. I'm in the right place. And to look up on the screen and see Colin Cowie Lifestyle welcomes Mrs. Smith. On the table will be wine, because I only take those pitch meetings after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So there'd be a bottle of wine, champagne, red wine, selection of 3 or 4 cheeses, some nuts, some crackers.
Sounds so good. I'm hungry right now.
Exactly, a little, it'll make you feel welcome. And if it was a big fish coming in, I'd get Louder Ray to put their initials and macarons to put that on a tray in front of you.
I will say, Colin, when Pamela and I came to visit you, we had such a great experience from everything you're just saying. The serving, we had lunch, I believe, the serving of the lunch and the drinks and the customization. And it just really, reinforces how we are still talking about it. It was 3 years ago.
I know. I was going to jump in and say, we were met out front, brought up in the elevator. We went into this conference room, which, to go into a conference room at a startup like PartySlate, like chairs are everywhere. They're all different heights. And this was like everything was perfect. And the lighting, wasn't harsh. It was beautiful lighting. We had been contacted in advance about food restrictions, and we just felt so cared for while we were there. You weren't distracted.
So while you're there, you want to feel cared for.
Yeah.
Like the inside each of the closet is how the table is set. We have a yardstick so that every single chair is the identical height going around the table, right? That they all sit exactly in the right area, because when someone walks in, they notice those things. When you're talking about a lunch that I served you 3 years ago, that's the detail, right? So then live during the middle part, that was getting ready for everything. So then the middle 5 parts in a meeting like that, with introducing her to the entire team. I bring the team in to meet potential clients, so it's not just me, but there's a whole organization behind me. And then all the things we did along the way, right down to how the meal was served, or the lunch, or the cocktail, or the beverage. We went through all the pipeline, our sales pipeline, all the things that we mentioned to make sure that they understand why they should be working with us and nobody else. And then the last one was the gift bag. And they leave with a gift bag with a couple of my signed books, a fragrant candle, my business card, and my personal stationery, which is like 1/2 inch thick. So it's something, once again, that opened it up and visit, wow.
Yeah.
So
impressive.
we have a great experience. And then afterwards, the 5 follow-ups on that were, make sure that they will walk down to the car afterwards, listen to any piece of information you can to bring back, sit and debrief at the meeting, right then immediately, 5 minutes after the guest left, discuss what are the next steps. You know, who's going to reach out, who's going to email. I think she got on really well with so-and-so. It's important that we had so-and-so with us as well. So it's how do you take that approach? It doesn't matter whether you're setting up a cocktail party or a bar, or you're doing a process assembly line for a product that you're making. 3 5s, 5 things before, 5 things while it's live, 5 things how we regroup and reset. That I think is a very, very important tool that anyone can follow.
I love it. And tell me about, as far as, the process of writing the book. You have so much experience, and it just seems like such an overwhelming process to get it all in one book and all of your collective learnings that you want to share. What was your process to actually pulling it all together and getting it into the book format? It's
not easy. It's not easy because, people say to me, how long did it take to write the book? Well, the answer is 35 years.
Yes.
It is. It's 35 years of, I graduated from the University of Knox and Falls, right? and my thesis was in whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And along the way, these are all lessons that I've learned, why failure is important and how to lead with the best version of yourself. So I basically download everything. Right? And get into writing phase. And the most important part is you can never edit your own work. You always want to have someone edit your work with you. You need I've always said, great style comes from ruthless editing. Right?
I like that.
But knowing what to say no to.
That's right? A good soundbite, Pamela, for our story.
and you cannot edit yourself. You always need someone who's impartial to come in and look at the material objectively and say, this is what works or this is what doesn't work.
Yeah.
I worked with an incredible editor. My publisher is HarperCollins Leadership, which is one of the most prestigious business imprints out there. And they've been an incredible partner to work with. The book's doing very well. And as a result of it, I'm doing more and more public speaking now than ever before. The interesting thing is it's so nice to be back doing live events again. I know we're Zooming right now. But I stood up in front of a live audience the other day. I said, this is the first time the lower half of my outfit matches the top half of my outfit. Sometimes I've been in a jacket and a tie with gym shorts underneath. I have to walk out onto the stage dressed properly.
Yeah, it's great to be back out. I'm doing a lot of speaking too, and it's different. I'm used to people seeing people in a box, and now I'm getting reaction, and it's nice. We are back with live events as well, but we also know that we can't have Colin in all places. So offering this up to our PartySlate community, we get so much great feedback. So we really appreciate also offering our monthly or quarterly webinars in addition to our live events. So,
and it's always great chatting with you.
Yeah, well, we're big fans. As you know, I told the story as we were getting ready for this webinar. When I first met Colin at Engage, it was at the Breakers, and I just had a PowerPoint and a dream about PartySlate. And I had followed you, Colin, for so long. And I remember my friend Darren introduced us, and I told the whole team, I met Colin Cowie, and he posted on his Instagram. And that was 6 years ago. So Colin, you've been such a great supporter of PartySlate and our vision to be kind of the largest event inspiration platform in the world. We have global aspirations as well. And we just hit 1 million photos last week that have been uploaded to PartySlate. So we're just so proud to put a spotlight on the art that you guys create and the beauty and the memories that you create for so many people around the world.
And congratulations, you've done an extraordinary job. It's been amazing to watch you literally take an idea, plant the seeds, make it grow, and then watch it flourish.
Thank you so much. Well, that means a lot coming from you. But Pamela, I know we've had a few questions that were sent in advance and from the chat. Do you want to ask any of the questions that have come in? Pamela, can you hear us?
Yeah, I was trying to get off mute. Sorry. I was a little delayed there. Yeah. Okay, so going back to the beginning of our conversation about the supply chain, we do have a question about how the supply chain has impacted, is it making you rethink the way that events are styled or planned? Like, how is it impacting you?
Well, it's interesting. When you're working in New York or Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, where you have a lot of infrastructure, we still get to do what we wanted to do. But I'm working on an event now in St. Bart's in the mid part of February, and I really am rethinking what it is, because I know it's not easy to get stuff onto the island or get it off of the island, or what resources I have available to me. And I also realize that things could be a lot slower. So I'm spending way, way more money on labor now than ever before, because I just need to double up on it, because the safety nets that other companies had before are not there anymore. As I told you, we were on a job site in New York 3 weeks ago, and the chairs arrived in boxes. And we were sitting assembling, and you didn't think that you're going to assemble 240 chairs from scratch. So you have to add all this stuff in, and I think, the more staff you have, the better it is. The other thing is, where did everybody go? It's unbelievable. All the waiters have changed their businesses. Yes. Not only the waiters and the bartenders and hospitality, but in our hospitality project, we cannot find staff. Our service teams cannot find waiters. I don't know if they started to train cryptocurrency with their the stimulus checks and got to check out the whole industry, or changed industries, was what we've heard from a lot of people. But it's very difficult to find staff today to get things done. And so I would imagine that's probably the most frustrating part of it right now. And then just being able to maintain that level of quality that we always promised. So listen, we all know this is not the easiest job in the world. Otherwise, none of us would have signed up for this. This is one of the hardest jobs in the world. You think about our job of creating events, live events, is just as stressful as producing live television. We don't have a take two. We don't get to say to the bride and groom, will you walk down the aisle again tomorrow because I didn't have the wrong form in the camera? But your career is toast and done then. So, but we all have all the right skills we need to get us through this period, right? Because this is how we started our businesses. Yeah. I guess, we got to a stage where we relied so much on everybody else. Dig within, find it within, and will help us get to the other side. Because I don't think that this is going to go away for a while. Yeah. You think about a company that had 4,000 employees to provide rentals to the community, who now got 500 people. You can do the math, right? Yeah. You cannot bring 1,500 people. A, you've got to find them. B, you cannot bring 1,500 people up to speed to be able to do their jobs the way they should be doing their jobs quickly. Yeah, and I will say that creating these standards and how you operate, and also, the mission and vision, so important for recruiting. We just closed our round of funding today, Colin. So congratulations. Big day for us, or a 5th round of funding. And, we're going back into recruiting mode. And we know, even with tech companies, it's very, very competitive right now. So we have to make sure we're tying people to our bigger vision, our why, what we're here for, and know that's part of our recruiting. And then when we get a bunch of new people in, having those standard operating procedures and the way you do things at PartySlate or at Colin Cowie, you have to have those standards. And I know not everyone loves being business geeks like I do, and Colin, you do as well, but you have to have that structure, otherwise you can't scale. And train new people and keep quality the way that you have to do. So. Not to correct you, but I've stopped using the word training. What do you call it? Because I think you train people who do tactical work, people who are in the military, and people who train dogs. Okay. Right? It's tactical work. What we're doing is we have to educate people, right? Okay. We have to educate them and then give them the tools that they need to work with. Yes. Those tools, together with your vision, mission, and guiding principles, will allow that person to be 100% aligned. In other words, if you did an exercise and you had 10 people ask them to do the same task, and they hadn't gone through this program, or this exercise, you'll get 10 very, very different answers. Yes. I like that. The same people went through the vision, the mission, and we educated them to be customer-facing people. And present the best version of themselves, to be the better version of themselves. Within 20%, they will have the right answer. I like that. I like that nuance, because training feels kind of like tactical and, oh God, training. But, education and empowering your team really feels, much more inspirational.
For sure. It's not memorization. It's like internalizing.
Yeah. Also, you want to look at the task, right, of what you have to do. You want to think about all the things you've learned, right? You want to add to that, what is the company ethos, your vision, your mission, your guiding principles. And the fourth part is the most important part, your common sense, right? Even if you're trained to do something this way and it doesn't seem off, you need to trust your instinct before you open your mouth to the client or before you hit that send button. You need to ask yourself, it's not black or white. It's not a black or white story whatsoever.
It's art and science.
Customer education is very holistic to get people to respond the right way in the right situation. One of the first things I teach is the power of the 1 minute apology. Just think about our business. How many things can go wrong? An oven could break down. The vehicle traveling, the transporting bride and groom could break down. A million things. The musicians go to the wrong Hyatt. They go to the Hyatt downtown instead of the Hyatt uptown.
Oh, gosh.
It might be. How do we recover? You have to teach everyone. And for me, I use that what I call the power of the 1 minute apology.
Oh, I want to hear about this.
When someone is irate and someone is really unhappy and someone is not having a good situation and they're complaining, when you can look someone sincerely and say, I'm sorry, right? It invariably, almost immediately diffuses the situation. The moment you've got the anger stopped, it allows you to assume responsibility of the situation. You now need to take charge, right? Which means that you now get into fix mode. And you'll say to the client, I don't have all the answers right now. This should never, ever happen. You're 100% right. I take full responsibility. I will fix this. And I need 1 hour. Set your watch for 55 minutes. Don't be 1 minute late. Otherwise, you lost more credibility and you'll even start with more anger. And stick to the facts, right? And so we assume responsibility by apologizing. We take full responsibility for what it is that we're doing. And then we need to recover, right? So figure out, how do you make the situation right? At this point, it's not important who's right or who's wrong. The only important thing is recovery.
Yes.
And when the anger is gone, the next day you do the debrief and you figure what went wrong. And most importantly, how do we avoid it from ever happening again?
Absolutely.
That becomes one of your new principles that you add. It becomes something on a checklist that wasn't there before. I remember doing a wedding about 1.5 years ago, and I've done a few weddings, right, in my day, and I've sent out I don't know how many thousands and thousands of invitations for the events that we do. So we had a bride who picked a gorgeous cardstock, and we wanted to use this matte kind of a silvery coppery color. It was very beautiful on the gray paper. It looked wonderful in the sample. So we put 150 invitations in the mail. And you won't believe what happened, but with the US Postal Service, the ink on most of the invitations rubbed off.
Oh no.
So all of a sudden the invitation wasn't legible. So you can imagine a bride's come to me to throw this very big extravagant wedding. The first thing that I do for her is I send out invitations and the ink rubs off. Is it my fault? Is it the fault of the printer? Right? The printer station should have checked it and should have run a sample through to make sure that it works. Ultimately, it's 100% my fault. I'm responsible. Okay. And they're not interested in hearing the excuse from the printer or from the stationer. They want to hear it from me to know that I'm going to take care of and fix it. So we did. We fixed it. We reprinted. We sent out new invitations. We never charged them for them. We never charged them for them at all. And now, every time I send out a new invitation, it goes in a clear vellum plastic bag, exact same size as the invitation, and the postage stamp is on the outside. Mission solved. It took me 35 years to figure that out.
Right. And I love that the main point about the 1 minute apology is it doesn't matter whose fault it is. You have to disarm and take accountability so that you can go into recovery and fix mode versus the he said, she said, and whose fault it is.
And it can't be a half-hearted apology that I'm so sorry you're feeling like this, right? Because it's a half-hearted apology. I'm sorry. This should never have happened.
Yes.
I will fix it for you.
That's great. I love it. And so is that an example? You have this 1 minute apology. How does your team learn how to do that 1 minute apology? Is that, again, practiced, educated, or is that what, how do you do it?
It comes from us, having our round tables in the office. We're doing one now. I'm bringing the entire team to California, to South Florida for 3 days to figure out what is our 2022. I think you have to have a plan, right?
Yes.
What is the plan for 2022? What is our goal for 2022? What are the projects we want to do? And then the second part of the plan is how are we going to get there?
Yes,
So it's the goals and the objectives, right?
absolutely.
So that every 3 months, we will sit down and we'll have a meeting with everyone, even if it's via Zoom, and we'll readdress and look at all those goals and find how far along are we with each one of those goals, department by department, art department, IT, producers, etc. And that way it gives us an idea to figure out who's pulling their weight, who's not pulling their weight, or do we have to maybe pivot a little bit because what we thought was going to be this is not going to be that, so we need to make a change.
Absolutely. We do the same at PartySlate. We call them objectives and key results. And so it's annual planning, quarterly objectives, measurable. And again, I think the in-person planning is so important, as many of us have been disconnected on Zoom or connected, but not in person. But I love the idea of coming together, at least for annual planning.
Remember, we got a little lazy the last 18 months. I missed a lot of my goals and objective meetings. I really did, because I was in survival mode or whatever mode I was in. I wasn't doing the things I wanted to do. Also, the idea of Zoom is, it's an incredible tool. I mean, I prefer Zoom now to a phone call. I love to look at someone. And that's, but it doesn't give you that personal connection. You cannot be sitting around a table looking at a screen and say, well, put up this euro and see if you can find that part. Well, feel this piece of fabric. Do you prefer this one over that one? So the idea of connecting as a team is important. So I figured if we're going to start 2022 with some big lofty goals, I need to bring my team together. Let's go have some fun. The team has not been to Miami in maybe 10 years. So we used to do a company retreat. So it's nice to bring everybody back here again in January. And we'll do exactly that. We'll spend, 4 days, 3 days, 3 nights, 4 days, really having a lot of fun, seeing one another and figuring out what are the goals and objectives for 2022? What do we want to accomplish? And most importantly, how are we going to get there? And then to measure it. Every 90 days to measure department, find out where are we in the department? Are we doing the right thing? Do we need to pivot a little bit? Do we need to change our message?
Absolutely. And I think for people that have a smaller team, I think I'm happy to send this out, kind of a 1-page strategy document. A lot of people, 1 or 2 people, it's all in my head or whatever, writing it down, even if you have a team of 2 or just yourself and 2 interns, the process of writing it down and running it by your personal board of directors or your friend doors or whatever kind of helps you think through your business strategy. It's so valuable to have it in writing. You don't need to have a 30-person company to do this. You can do it with just 2 or 3 people, even just 1 person. You should write it down. And I will send that out to you guys because I'm so passionate about writing things down. If it's not written down, I believe it's much less likely to happen. The
other thing, when you write things down, you tend to struggle with it. If you say to a team, the vision of a company comes from the owner or comes from the CEO, or from the board, right? So basically, this is who we want it to be, right? The mission, how we're going to get there, can only happen when you get buy-in from the team. So I never ever say, management, let's send them a mission statement. Let's pull someone from every department, put you to 4 teams, ask you 4 questions about the business, go and wordsmith them on your own. Put all those people together, take all those answers, wordsmith that into one document, and all of a sudden you're all saying exactly the same thing. But because they struggled with it, it will stick. Right? It's not lip service saying, this is how we're going to do it. Right? You want your people to buy in. You want people to feel part of the program and to feel that they have authorship over this, because you want them to believe in it and you want them to act on it.
Absolutely. And then, translating and cascading those goals into departments, like you said, creative and, the tech group or whatever, is equally as important as setting those company-wide goals. So if you have a bigger company with multiple groups, you can empower those groups to set those goals and objectives that ladder back to meeting the company objectives. And so I'm really proud that over the years, PartySlate has gotten much better at this. When you're a startup, sometimes you're headed in a lot of directions, but if you're not rowing in the same direction, with that strong culture to support it, you're not going to be successful. You're just going to struggle. So really quickly, I do want to, Pamela, you're on mute. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, we do have some more questions real quick. time.
And then I want to show Colin's profile page and do a little bit of bragging after that. Yes.
Of course. So we have two kind of future looking questions. Athena wants to know if you've considered turning this content from your book into a masterclass.
It's exactly what I'm doing, Athena. I'm busy working with an educator right now to take the book into a 2-day masterclass. An interesting thing is, in working with an educator who creates the right material to make you struggle so that it sticks with you, so it becomes very teachable, is a whole different skill set. And then when you think about it, we do these speaking engagements and we speak to everyone for an hour, maybe an hour and a half with questions and answers, right? You cannot really teach, right? You're giving people headlines and you're giving them, the highlights of what they need to learn. So we're in the process of really doing around and get to be able to teach the entire book over a 2-day masterclass where everything is done, where there's lessons that we use. We need to apply the examples from our own businesses so that it resonates with us, it works with us, and it stays with us.
I love that.
All
You're getting a lot of applause in the chat that people are excited about that. And I will say that what I found as well, doing a lot of speaking, is you can excite people and tease people with nuggets and definitely it helps. But until you actually put it into practice and have some rhythm to it, and repetitiveness and teamwork in kind of attacking these things, it doesn't stick. It doesn't. Yeah.
100%. In fact, it's completely proven that if you don't struggle to create it, when I say struggle, I mean, you think about it, you work, you go backwards and forwards, and you talk about it. If you don't do that within 60 to 90 days, you'll remember less than 20%.
Yeah.
Put less than 20% into action. So the idea of doing a masterclass is obviously the most natural thing for us to do. And I have so many people in the hotel industry and in our industry that want me to do this, that it makes complete sense to do as the next natural extension of this book. And I love teaching and I love being in front of an audience like this.
Yeah, and we will, in the follow-up article we write about this webinar, of course, this is recorded, we'll also put a link to the book. And I highly recommend everyone read the book as well, because even with the masterclass, I think reading the book, the masterclass, and then implementing them is really going to make a big impact. So I'm really excited that you're doing this. And I think one thing I've been so impressed about you, Colin, when I hear you speak, is you're so open to sharing your 35 years of experience, whether it's talking about pricing techniques and other things. I've seen you really open up and help the industry grow. And I just really, really appreciate how much you're giving back to the industry.
I think it's very important because at the end of the day, if we're blessed with these talents, we don't own them, right? You're just a custodian for them. So the more we share, the more we get given to share. Right?
Yes.
If you take the ego out of it, I have a responsibility to maybe pass on as much as I can. And I've never ever said, this is my idea, or I own that, or I did it first. It's not important. What's important is that you're thinking about what you're going to be doing next.
Yes.
And how you can share it. Inspire people. I was in my 2 prayers. My last 2 things in my prayers at night were, help me to be the best version of myself and help me to present the best version of myself.
I love that.
Today you get to become a better version of you. When I was in my 20s, I had the world's greatest hardware and I had 0.1 software, right? Now, big birthday coming up really soon, I've got the hardware's hanging on, but the software's never been more golden.
I love that. I love that.
That's your intellectual property.
And Colin, I'm going to say right now, I want to be invited to that milestone birthday. I'm putting in a request right now. I don't care where it is around the world. I will fly in for it. I tried to get an invite for the wedding, but it was, in South Africa, so exclusive. But my friend Dana was there representing. So.
That's a good one.
So doing a little bit of bragging, not only for you, Colin, but I have to brag a little bit for PartySlate too. We do love putting a spotlight on your beautiful work. And I know for the people that don't know PartySlate as well on the call, what we've tried to do is pack all the digital knowledge, all the SEO, all the storytelling techniques that we know work with content marketing into this beautiful profile page. Everything from the rotating cover photos to show you do more than just one type of event, to having a place where you can do an announcement, such as Colin's new book that has just launched, to your press and recognition. So important to get Yeah, I know we need to add more for you, Colin, because you're written about all over the world, but it's so easy to add these features onto your profile page. And of course, again, I know I'm biased, Colin, but this is a best in class profile page showing that you do all different types of events and corporate events and galas and weddings and rehearsal dinners. And I know we talked about this event. This is one of my favorite events, Colin. I know we talked about it last time, but I am just obsessed with this stunning, stunning desert.
It was the most beautiful. Look at that. Look at that aisle that the bride walked down with the with the backdrop of Utah in the background against those rugged mountains with this very sleek, shiny material.
I'm obsessed with this. And I think one thing we found is important is to always, show your creative partners and the photographer and the venue, and you're helping each other, market your great work. So, when you get into this event, adding a description and having your partners there is just, again, a easy way to market each other, but also show the type of people that you work with. And then the last thing I'll say is just adding, people buy from people, and just having a snapshot of your team, and for SEO, frequently asked questions, and really thinking through anticipating questions. And of course, your goal is to get them on the call. There's no question. You're not going to answer it all here, but we really want to provide the incentive, not only from your Instagram and your website, but that you should be on the consideration set. And of course, all the fabulous people, Colin, that you work with. So one last thing, and then I'll turn it back to Pamela, is, one thing that we added is this My PartySlate section. And this is just PartySlate. I just think it's great. Oh, we're promoting your webinar, Colin. But we've added this My PartySlate where you can see how your profile, what your profile score is, what you can do to improve it so you can get more views, who's clicked on which photos, which ones are exciting. And then of course, how many impressions you got. This is just for PartySlate's profile. So looking at the last 90 days, this has just been really popular with our event planners and venues and caterers. So I'm going to stop sharing now and just wanted to do a little bragging for you, Colin. We appreciate.
I've got so many things to update. I need to get those galleries.
I know, help us help you, Colin. So we will do it for you. All you have to do is send it over. So with our white glove service, for those who don't have a free profile and have a premium profile, we'll do it for you. We'll give you the advanced features and of course, elevate you in our directory. So even if you haven't started with us, we will get you a free profile started. We want you to try before you buy, get to know us. And we can earn that respect and earn that trust and hopefully feature more of your events. So I know we have a few minutes left. Pamela or Colin, is there anything else you want to talk about the book? We'll send the link. Anything else from your side?
No, just to say, I think like everyone who's on this call right now, how lucky, how fortunate, how grateful are we to be busy again? Yeah. Yes, we're complaining because things are 20% more expensive for food costs and we can't find a truck and a driver. But when everyone complains, rewind the clock 18 months and remember how you felt.
Yes, I remember my first webinar, I did have tears. It was that first week and I felt for people in so many ways. I was in Las Vegas when the world shut down, and to see how we've rebuilt, we're smarter, we're stronger, we're more resilient, and we're going to get through this, staffing, supply chain, crunch that we're feeling. And it is a good problem to have, but I also know there is a lot of real pain out there right now tied to this.
Much better than the alternative, Julie.
It is better than the alternative, definitely. And so, Pamela, I know we have a bunch of articles coming up, but I want to say we are willing to help you get a profile going if you don't have one, or even review your profile. If you have your phone, you can do a quick scan on this QR code and just fill out a form. I will do a website review. I'm a total geek. I can do them in 3 minutes. I'll give you my perspective on, does it represent your brand? What you need to do to fix it, Instagram review. And then I'm also excited, real events. February 2nd, we're having a Dallas blowout. We know a lot of people are coming to that. And then February 28th, New York. I can't wait. And LA is not too far after that. So excited. Pamela, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm just going to wrap up by talking about some of the content that we have coming out. It's the end of the year, which is always like an exciting time for the content group at PartySlate, because we look back at the year that we've had. And, I know things slowed down. And like Julie said, we just hit 1 million images. Like we have seen such creativity over the past year. And so getting to the end of the year allows us to take a look back and see what were the most interesting, exciting, creative events that we saw In 2021, we are sharing the most liked Instagram post. We are sharing the most popular themes. And then we're looking ahead to 2022 and sharing what we are predicting will be the trends that we'll see in weddings, parties, kids' birthdays, creative themes, and catering trends. So we're just excited to share, what we've learned from looking at all of your wonderful events.
So
So we feel
Colin,
really lucky.
anything that you're excited about in 2022? I know some people don't like to use the word trends, but things that you're excited to see in 2022?
More efficiency.
Yeah, staffing.
No, yeah, exactly. No, I think it's just really wonderful to be this busy and to see how our events people have come, our events business has come back as fast and furiously as it has. And it's, it's wonderful. I think everyone's done a really good job of creating the safest environments possible to work in from a safety point of view. It's so interesting. I think I mentioned to you earlier in our pre-chat, spending a lot of time in South Florida in Miami. I don't think I've ever been asked to present my vaccination card at a restaurant, a bar, or a hotel. Every weekend I'm in New York for the last 6 months. You can't walk into a restaurant without presenting those.
Yes,
So it's
very
interesting. I
different.
think there's a consciousness, and I think the most important that we want to do is make sure that we keep our guests and our clients safe. That's what's most important.
Yes, and for our events, we've been using Vow Digital Health. Again, I don't get paid a commission or anything. We just really like what they're doing, making it simple. We've also used EventDoc down in Florida for testing staff that weren't vaccinated. We have decided to make our events vaccine required, and we're proud of that. We want this to move behind us. So that's something that we're committed to continue doing. But I do think keeping the world safe, keeping our events safe is going to be needed for a very long time. And this thing is not going away. We see new variants coming, et cetera. But I am optimistic we will not go back, never say never, to where we were before.
No. We've learned too much, and there are mechanisms in place that actually work. It's been proven scientifically.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Colin, thank you again. As you know, we're big fans, and from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate your support of PartySlate and our vision. We want to be the Vogue of event design. We love the art that you and others create, and the experiences and the memories that really inspire people all over the world. So thank you for your support, and thank you for being with us here today. We know how busy you are, and it means a lot to us. So I'm so excited to send people the link to your book and a recap article about our discussion. And I hope to see you in person soon, maybe our New York event.
Thank you so much, Julie. Had a wonderful time with you.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Pamela. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.